Most people seem to join by 5 after, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, one thing I want to say is that I've been doing those weekly what's happening at Salt Stack meeting or posts on Mondays, and we had some people request that we put release notes and SEPs and the core team focus before the events on that post. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I wish I'd thought of that before, so I will change the order of the information that's shared in those Monday posts for everybody. Event-wise, meetups are starting back on June 24th. We'll take the week of July 1st off, then have meetups throughout most of the rest of July. Those events will be up on the community site as well. And then I know that there was a backlog of working group videos that had not yet been uploaded on YouTube. There was a delay in getting them uploaded and edited. So yesterday I sat down and spent several hours uploading, editing, and sharing about 9 or 10 videos. So any work group video now for the past month should be on YouTube on the working groups playlist. And the only other thing I have coming up is, I think we have a couple of our working group captains in here, but I will be reaching out to working group captains here in the next week or so. I'd like to get an idea of what everybody's priorities are for the next release so we can start sharing those and then scheduling some of those working group highlights as well. That's it for housekeeping. Anybody have any other housekeeping items to add, events, speaking engagements, any of that? Okay. Next thing that came up, this was not on the agenda, but it's come up several times this week, is several of us had noticed that there were no messages in the IRC channel on Slack. And I know that IRC was going to remove support for the Slack bridge, and we were working on creating an alternative bridge. I don't think that bridge is working, and I just wanted to get a status update from anybody who's been working on this. So I know, Wayne, you've been working on the bridge. What's the latest there?
And I see that Imran's also there.
Yeah.
I guess the update that I got from Imran a couple of days ago was that if we wanted to go ahead and test it with the formulas channel, and I think for the most part it seems to be working okay. There's definitely a hiccup with people who newly join the Slack channel not ending out showing up in the IRC chat. And I know Imran reached out to the Matrix Bridge people to see, like, hey, what's going on here? Do you have any updates on that, Imran?
Hi. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep. I hear you great.
Yeah. So, like Wayne said, we've started using it in the formulas channel now, and we did have a couple of test rooms as well that we tried it out. So there were some formatting issues as well that I think were brought up last time, but hopefully they're quite minor. The biggest problem is, as Wayne said, when you have a new user joining one of the channels in Slack, it doesn't always create the user in IRC. It manages to reach Matrix, which is our central sort of bridging area, but it doesn't get through to IRC. So I have spoken to the people behind these bridges, and they're saying they'll look into it, and so I'll just keep chasing them up. But what I was suggesting is, in the meantime, we don't have anything that's working, so we can just set these up for the time being until a solution can be found, a more permanent solution.
I do think we need some sort of a solution sooner rather than later, because it's just a channel that isn't getting some of the information they might want.
The good part is it literally takes, it can take 2 minutes to get it all set up. So I could have it done even now. If you guys wanted to do it, I could actually start it up right now. But I do need the operator permissions in the IRC side, so that, or someone needs to actually just accept the bridging from that side. But the Slack side's already done because Cassandra's already set that up. I can just get it all connected up together. So if you want to do that, if you make a decision now, we can even do that right now before the meeting ends.
Do we know who has permissions to enable that in IRC?
I'm pretty sure, Gareth, you're a channel operator in Salt, aren't you?
I am, yeah. Yeah, Imran, we can connect offline actually right now if you want to get that set up.
Well,
Yeah, I
should I
mean,
get that? Do it now. Do it whenever. I can start it up if you like.
Yeah, let's chat now.
Okay.
yeah.
So I'll start doing it in the background. Okay.
All right, let us know if you anything else comes up with regard to that throughout this meeting, and we'll keep on top of it. So, and thanks for taking care of that, you two. All right, next we have SEP status. The unsupported release status is merged and archived at repo.saltstack.com. That's all ready to go. And the SEP on the release label improvements, I know that's still an ongoing conversation. I know that we have a draft SEP that's supposed to be coming out. I'm not sure if that's ready yet with us getting up against the release time. Do you have any updates on that, Sage?
Still working on that.
Yeah.
I hope to have that to the core team as a draft before we actually open this up this week. I'm a little bit behind on that, but we'll continue to work on that and then hopefully have it open by Monday.
Yeah, maybe it's something that we make to kind of a priority for magnesium.
Yeah.
To get that issue resolved. It's a good time right now to start planning projects for the next release and prioritizing things. So, all right. Any other SEP updates for from anybody? Okay. The only other thing is that as far as the release goes, we are currently still on track for a June 17th release date. Packaging is in progress. Mo, do you have anything else to add about the release status? Or anybody, any timelines or?
I think that the good news is we've laid out the schedule team in terms of being able to actually close out, do the freeze. From there, go ahead and complete the merge. From that, actually take any of the issues that are top priority from the RC and get those resolved or prepared for the .1 release. And then we start with the packaging. We're a little bit ahead of schedule on packaging, which is good news. So that gives us a chance now to get into testing. We plan to complete the testing and be on track to get this released next week. So we're excited to get sodium out with the whole community's contributions and wonderful efforts. And then we are proceeding to sort of start to lay out all of the PRs and issues that we would want to tackle and prioritize for the .1 and for magnesium.
And to piggyback off of what Mo said, we really appreciate everybody's contributions to this release. So for me, I had deliverables for this release as well in my role, and one of them was to create a hub for everybody to be able to find information, which is kind of what the wiki has become, to put some more consistent cadence and structure around things like open hours and meetups. But we're also in the early stages of doing some things to gather information about our top contributors, our work group captains, and send out some little kind of swag items to recognize all of you. So in the next few weeks, I'll be gathering that data and sending everybody, sending people discount codes to get some swag from the SaltStack store. Also going to be putting together a blog post about what the community accomplished during this release, kind of to recognize the non-technical aspects of what's happened in this release cycle. So thank you all for that, and just watch out for some more information coming out and then moving on from there. Okay, Ralph Retro is asking, where shall we log priority PRs for the next release? Is the next release 300.1 or 300.2?
It's 3001.1 or 3002. But yeah, I think it depends on what the issue or the PR, especially if it's a PR, what the PR is fixing. If it's a, and I'm not entirely sure, and DWAS, you may be able to chime in here as far as like what specific things we're accepting in the point release. We do know that we are going to have a point release. There are several issues we've already identified that that have been labeled as such. So if your PR is fixing one of those, for sure they'll be against the 3001.1. But yeah, I think if you've got some question about it specifically, so those issues are on GitHub under the tag. They'll have a label, 3001.1, I believe, is the label on there.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's pretty easy to just add that to your search criteria, and you'll be able to see those issues.
Yeah, we are looking at things that are critical, and because of the short time frame for bug fix release, we can't do everything, but we definitely want to look at what's critical, and we have to look at those on the whole and see where they fall. So we do have somebody on triage every week, and pulling those in, and I'm reviewing them as well and getting with the team to make sure that those are getting reviewed so that we can figure out where those go. And some of it just depends. So, but if you have something that's critical, definitely get that issue in and let us know, and we'll get that triaged. And we're working on getting information out sooner and labeling them as soon as we can once we know when those are going to be released or where our plan is to release them.
Okay. Next release related question. Ralph wants to know, shall we shoot for an early morning or late afternoon release time?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we've actually always done by end of US business day. Fruit day, is that correct, or am I wrong?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I wasn't following correctly.
Yeah,
The
is
release
the
time.
yeah, should people be anticipating it in the morning or the evening? US time, we'll assume for now.
Yeah, thinking usually around noon, Mountain Standard Time is usually when we try and push it out live.
So we'll aim for that, since that's what we've typically done, is sort of midday US Mountain.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And if there are updates or delays on that, we will keep you updated timing. That's a lesson we all learned during the CV. So make sure to keep you if anything changes. Okay, and then Eric had a question. There happened to be packages 6. How will sodium be distributed for that release?
I missed that question, Cassandra. I don't know if it's me that has lag or if you're breaking up.
No, I think it's Cassandra.
It was me. I just got your connection is unstable. I got that error come up. But Eric had asked about support for EL6.
Yeah. I replied to him in the chat, Derek, but
Yep.
for everybody in general, there is no Red Hat 6 support in Sodium. Our support for Red Hat 6 was Python 2 only, and there's no Python 2 support in Sodium, so naturally there will be no Red Hat 6 support. Neither will there be Debian 8 support in Sodium either. But Debian 8 was supposed to be end of life on the 30th of June. Amazon Linux 1 also was only Python 2 support, and originally it was going to be end of life 30th of June, but now Amazon are end of lifing it at the end of the year. Red Hat 6 is end of life the end of November, and so it didn't seem sensible to bring up Python 3 when we started doing Python 3 support for it, given that it had such a short lifespan.
All right, thanks. That answer your question, Eric? Cool. All right. Are there any other release related questions?
Cassandra, I'll just make a comment.
Okay.
Going back to the question that Ralph has, I think just to summarize what the team said and structure it crisply. So Pedro posted the board. So if you're looking for understanding the actual issues, go there, please. If you have some, you know the label to use for those, and we'd appreciate that. Our .1 release is targeted for approximately middle of July. That will be based on the priority of the issues, the severity of these issues, how widely they impact, and so on. And then everything else will just fold into magnesium. In that same window of time, which is from the moment we release next week until July 15th or so, that's when we will be in the planning mode for magnesium. So the intent is, of course, we will have the board. We will load up all the type of PRs that we are working towards. We'll obviously look at the various ones that the community members have highlighted or flagged for magnesium. And then we will also, as part of that, make and share some timetables for us to actually have the PR port party, which we had deferred at the end of the CVE and so on and so forth. But please, for those who are listening to the recording or following the minutes, if you have things you want for magnesium that you want prioritized, you want to highlight as critical and so on, please go ahead and give them the right label so that we can all converse around them and make sure that we've accounted for those and planned for them. Lastly, it is the intent that we are going to be continuing in, of course, the code freeze right until probably around that middle of July, and then we'll lift it, and then that will, of course, allow us to get things back into the magnesium flow. So I believe, Sage, might be worthwhile to also repaste the link to where we have our wiki with the release roadmap or timelines.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we do intend to keep that updated. We'll update a new timeline for magnesium, and there will probably be some reorganizing and structuring of the pages so that it's easier to find information through the different releases, but that's something to figure out as we go forward. All right. Cool. Any other comments on the release? Okay. Next up, we had a request. Orange Dog is Orange Dog on? I'm not sure. I don't see him, but he had said that there should probably be a discussion about modernizing the networking support now that distributions are removing deprecated things. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I think David Murphy was going to give an overview, and then we can discuss it from there.
So basically, Salt has been relying on deprecated network tools for some time now. Part of this was we were Python 2 support, and we're also supporting Solaris in 10, which is pretty old, AIX, which is they're still using ifconfig. And so while no OS had removed the old deprecating net tools from their packages, everything was fine. Except Ubuntu 20 came along and they did. And so we had to scramble. And as Orange Dog pointed out, and he has in an issue on GitHub 57541, he nicely laid out what we need to do and replace. And we're going to go through and update Salt now that it's Python 3 only for the new distributions that we're supporting, and go through and allow for, our primary will be to use the newer versions of the net tools. We still have to have some support around for the deprecated net tools, because as I said, Solaris 10 still is using ifconfig, AIX is. Some of the switch router vendors that we're using on native minions, for example, some of them are still on the very, in the teens versions of Fedora. So we're having to use net tools around on those platforms as well. But it will be, essentially they're going to be our fallback position. And while we're doing that, as other people have pointed out, we need to go through and clean up a lot of things like IF up, IF down on Ubuntu, and essentially modernize and pick up all the networking issues that people have been pointing out for a while. Our planned scope is to do this for magnesium, which is going to be the end of September sometime. So we've got a bit of time here to get this done. And after we get 3001 out, it'll be into planning and getting that mapped out as to all the tasks that we need to do and any issues that are involved that we need to consider that we might not consider. any inputs would be greatly appreciated, of course. As
What was the issue number again? Where everything's aggregated?
Sure, I'll post it in chat as well, but it is 57541. Just post it in the chat. So it seems to be becoming a rallying point for items that are related, and so it'll be good to get through this and pick things off. Was there anything else about NetTools that anybody wanted to bring up?
I do know that the salt.utils.network has a lot of redundancies, so you can use either for many of the tools. Does it make sense to track this convert that issue into an epic, and then identify what modules actually need to be updated? Because I don't think I see that there.
Yeah, that'll probably be what we'll do in the planning session. We'll create an epic to track all of the networking issues, because it isn't just Linux that's got to get done. It'll be Solaris, IX, some of the switch vendors, FreeBSD has to be considered as well. So it'll have an epic to go through and adjust all the modules for all those different platforms. Some of the support might end up getting staggered depending on resources and time limits. But the essential item would be to get the Linux up to date. Thanks for the suggestion.
Do we know do we know what, aside from, I guess, that network.arp, do we know what's affected yet, or has the work been done for that, or is that something that you need help with?
No, but help would be appreciated. We haven't scanned through. Basically, we've been getting the release out and some other issues. And so this came up as we were packaging. And so it hasn't really been gone through yet or mapped out what modules need to get affected. And that will be part of the planning process and investigation into just what changes we do need to make, and any heads up would be great.
All right, well, thanks for those updates. And well, you were given that update. Imran has told us that the Slack IRC bridge is in place. Thank you so much, Gareth and Imran, for taking care of that. All right, next thing on the agenda is Bootstrap. I know Pedro was going to talk about, there were questions about as we move to a single binary, how are we going to update Bootstrap? Pedro's going to cover the POC and then just again have another conversation around this topic. So go ahead.
Okay, so for those who are deep into Salt, will likely already know and rely upon Salt Bootstrap. Those that do not know what Salt Bootstrap is, it's a shell script which has grown quite big, but it does allow us to bootstrap a Salt Minion, Salt Master in different scenarios, and especially people using Salt Cloud rely upon that quite a bit. Salt Bootstrap, as I mentioned, has grown quite big, and maintaining and testing it has become harder over time, as been removing support for old distributions or adding new support or new features. For example, some distributions switched from Python 2 to Python 3. Salt Bootstrap handles that scenario in one or two versions, not all. So it's hard, sorry, it's hard to just add this basic support now that it's grown so big. But the huge usefulness of the script and being it so small and transparent because anyone can open it is also a major benefit. So like a week and a half, I set out to create a proof of concept of something that we could start doing, which is a more testable. We can unit test the small bits of it, more maintainable because of that too. But that comes at a cost. It's an opaque binary, which instead of a few kilobytes is right now like 12 megabytes. Although these days I don't believe that the size would matter, but the opacity of it might. So that's why I bring the subject to Open Hour, and depending on input, we might open a SEP to further discuss this approach and probably approach others that any user can provide. So the current proof of concept code has changed from when I took a recording, and it's now non-working because I was trying to add more support for what Salt Bootstrap added. So I will share a link in Slack to an Eskinema recording just to see it in action. So that's really bare bones. It deploys Salt into a virtual environment on CentOS 8, and there's no Python installed, there's no Salt installed, and it just does the thing. I will also paste the Bootstrap code as it is now, and again, it might be in a non-working stage. This is just a proof of concept. But the basic idea is to rely on Python to do it, which is something that Salt relies and depends upon. So it's easier to choose this. While thinking about this issue, the team has also in other occasions discussed, should we do this in a different language so that we can get a smaller binary? Rust, for example, would be an option. But the choice of Python, I think it's obvious. Not that, for example, I would love to try writing some Rust and learn it and do some nice things with it. But Salt is a Python project, and people using Salt usually know Python, and Salt Bootstrap would be something brought into the Salt project, and another language might reduce the chances of people contributing to it. And so the topic for discussion is actually, is the opacity of a single binary a problem for people? Is Python the wrong choice? As you might look at the code from the proof of concept, it relies on classes, so object-oriented programming, so that we have like a base class to provide the common functionality. And the goal is whenever we add a new system, we just have to tweak a few attributes and it just gets support added. And on some corner cases, we can actually override some functionality. And Python is wonderful at doing this. The team also raised concerns because of this, and it not being something that people can download and see. So the project can actually be pip installed, but it will rely on Python 3.8. So not all systems can just pip install that and run and bootstrap Salt like that. So that's why, that's the reason behind the single binary. And The problem being solved is actually getting proper and improved test coverage to solve Bootstrap. There's some corner cases which we do not test. The test suite that we had previously just made sure that the minion was bootstrapped. It didn't check if the version was the right one. It didn't check if the Python that we wanted to install salt in was the right one. I've added that. But adding these kind of tests requires a full bootstrap process, which just takes time and resources. And so that's why this alternative was considered. On the other hand, I also thought, okay, what if we don't do this, and how could we test the shell script? And an idea would be like, for example, a PyTest plugin, which faked the binary output. So whenever we would like plant bogus binaries with the right names, and they would spit out the right output. And this would be defined by the tests. So this would be a way for us to like try and test small parts of it, but it's still hard to test the shell scripting, the shell script. So thoughts, ideas of what we could do? Is this like something that would be adopted by the community? Like, would you be comfortable of using Salt Bootstrap as a single binary? Of course, the binaries and checksums would be added to the download page, so you can make sure that these are the binaries that we are delivering. But basically, ideas, input. What else could we do? Is this a really bad idea? And that kind of input. Questions?
Okay, Eric has a question or comment. One of the benefits of having a Bootstrap script is that people can download it and expect what they're running or even make minor changes to suit their use case. Will there be no script-based solution once bootstrap-salt.sh is deprecated?
So yeah, so the concern that you raise is exactly one that the team also raised. People will not be able to inspect that single binary. And if you need to make changes to suit your system, that will not be possible. The build process will be open and transparent, so you can actually change and build your own and use your binary to bootstrap stuff. But yes, that's way more trouble than editing a shell script. About will Salt Bootstrap, the script, be deprecated? Yes, there's no, so this is like either one, we continue with the Bootstrap script, but we need a way to improve testing and small bits of it, and this is an unsolved problem. Or we switch to the single binary approach and we will no longer maintain the shell script. We might have temporarily a script that will redirect you to the binary. But if we add such a script, you will have a big warning about what it's doing so that people know that they are not using the old Bootstrap script, but a single binary. But we will not be maintaining two different things at the same time.
Any follow-up comments or questions?
So a lot of people pipe the old one to bash. Would we maintain that, or would we expect people to change the way they invoke Bootstrap? Would we have a short, like, 5-line script or something that just runs this?
That's an option, yeah. Have a bash script that people can pipe.
You have to also consider what style. Oh, okay.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say we also have to consider what what impact this has to Salt Cloud, which relies on invoking Bootstrap. Yeah, we'd have to have at least some backwards compatibility, because if somebody's running a version of Salt Cloud before changes are made upstream to reference then a new tool, then earlier Salt releases with Salt Cloud are still going to be trying to run Bootstrap Salt.
Yeah, so that's another problem that needs decision to be acted upon. Sorry, which is right now so Salt will include the latest stable release of Salt Bootstrap. If we do switch to a single binary, that we will not be doing that. We will not be including a binary in Git. That's the wrong way of doing things. Salt Cloud can already download the latest release of the script. There's code that supports that. Sorry, and use that instead of the one that's shipped with Salt. So for the issue of people using an old one, we will not just delete the Bootstrap script, at least for now. And people can delete a version, so we will not lose the Git history. People can go back and fetch the tag that they want and use that shell script on their system. But going forward, we would not be shipping that shell script unless it's a thin wrapper that actually gets the binary. But we would add support. Well, it always supports downloading, but we will. So basically, Salt Cloud would have to download the script before it deploys the first VM on newer versions of Salt. And this is like a rough solution to the problem. It can probably be addressed in a better way, and that's like not written down of how we are going to do. But basically, we would not be shipping the binary with Salt Cloud. There was some. So while I did this proof of concept, there's something that has been quite useful when people report issues, which is you have a log file of the whole Bootstrap session. And so actually the proof of concept will do the same thing. So everything that is printed to the shell will be recorded in a log file so that you can file a bug report. So, and right now, the proof of concept is not picking up the flags that the old script is using, but the idea is to try and make sure that switching to the new binary isn't that disrupted. And this means, like, most likely, unless there's a strong reason not to, the old shell script flags will be used in the new binary approach so that you can just have it working, even though it's no longer using a shell script, but it's using a single binary. So that will be something that we will try and not break if we move forward with this proof of concept. Any other input? I plan on at least posting a message on the develop channel in Slack because not everyone is here, and I can get some feedback from there too. Depending on the feedback, if it's positive or more or less, and it's not overly like don't do it, we will have to write a set for this and publish it to the usual channel so that we can get even more input on this matter. But from a maintainability aspect, the single binary is very appealing. And maintaining the Bootstrap script is becoming more cumbersome, to say the least. And so this new approach would be ideal to maintain. So I'm not saying that we are pushing to switch to this, but from a maintainer's perspective, it would be awesome just to switch to Python, and we provide a single binary, and we can actually test the small bits of it, and not have to bootstrap a full system, just switching a few flags to see if everything is done accordingly. But yeah, we want your input on the matter. If we do follow like a single binary, do you have suggestions with regards to security? Because this is an opaque, what could we do to feel you more, make you more comfortable about using a single binary to bootstrap a system and things like that. So any idea, comments, suggestions are more than welcome. And actually,
so Pedro, what you're saying is we're not going to write it in Haskell.
We're not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. But if everyone is willing to write it and maintain it, the sky is the limit.
So I guess that means Lisp is still on the table.
Sure. Java, anyone?
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Sorry.
It's all part of the process.
Here we go. COBOL. Someone. Cassandra said, Cassandra.
What?
Cassandra.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah, I know.
So
this is a big change for the Salt Bootstrap. I remember that when Salt Bootstrap became a project, I was the one implementing it, and I basically picked up rough sketches from several scripts which handled the multiple distributions, and it was actually quite fun and awesome to be able to just make one script that did it all. But maintaining it is really hard, and testing it is even harder. And that's why this idea came up. It's not the first time that it comes up with the team. And last time I said I will try this in Rust, just for the fun of trying it in Rust. And because you can get a single binary out of it, but it doesn't make sense using Rust. Just because anyone involved in the project or providing a fix probably knows Python, and some might know Rust, and some might not even want to know Rust. And so we have to think about those things, and that's why Python was chosen for this proof of concept. 12 megabits is not that big, but it is way bigger than a few kilobytes. So that's also one of the concerns. Anyway, any more questions regarding the possible switch to Python for Salt Bootstrap in a single binary?
We did have a question from Twitch. Somebody asked will the binary work on Windows too? There's currently a separate Bootstrap script on Windows.
Yes, so there's currently a Bootstrap script on Windows. The current script is supposed to also bootstrap macOS, and we have no reports that it doesn't, although we don't test it right now. We cannot provide one binary that just works on macOS, Linux, and Windows. So we will actually have to provide one for, one for Windows and one for Linux, which will likely run on macOS also. If it doesn't, we will have to provide one for macOS. But they will be based off of the same source code and tag, just the binary output. So the artifact of the builds will be different for the different platforms. If anyone has a suggestion about a binary that can run on Linux and Windows, I would happily try it out, because that would solve another problem, which is one.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. But these are wild times.
And I don't think it'll run on. I think we need separate binaries for OS X as well.
Yeah, most likely. I did. So the current binary is built on CentOS 6, so that we have an old Ellipse. I actually had to build OpenSSL and a few other dependencies to have it working, but for Linux, at least, it should run on all. We won't have to create a binary for Arch and CentOS and Debian. So the single binary should work for the supported versions of the OSs that we want to bootstrap. Actually, the link that I pasted, let me paste another recording session, because I also attempted to solve the problem of the distributions which are like childs of Debian. So Mint, for example, which is based off of Debian. And the proof of concept also recognizes that, although at the end it doesn't bootstrap. So there's an error. But the error is because I was trying to bootstrap 3000.1, and we still had collections.abc imports throughout the code, and that didn't work. So that's another link to another recording. Linux Mint is detected, and we actually don't run any Linux Mint related code. We just run the Debian code. So that also simplifies the work that the script or the new project would do. Did I answer all the questions?
Somebody in Twitch is just saying Mono, .NET Core 2, PowerShell, Fortran. So
There's a lot of options, and if we can get the right reasons, we can adopt any of those options, but they have to be the right reasons.
that's a good diplomatic answer. All right, what else does everybody have that they'd like to bring up? We have about 8 minutes left. So is virtual SaltConf happening? Ralph Retro wants to know. That is a very good question. I would like it to happen. Maybe Mo can speak to that better than I can, though.
Actually, that decision has not yet been finalized. So we should, we'll go ahead and ask Alex to give us a view on it. It seemed to have just come up in the last week a couple of times. So there must be something in the air about being nostalgic about the conference. In the absence of the conference itself, of course, we've been holding the virtual meetups that Cassandra publishes the calendar in the community for. But there has been a couple of requests that have come in asking us to kind of organize a little bit more of a dedicated time that we can all get together as a community and chat. I do think that even if SaltConf itself doesn't formally go virtual, or maybe delay itself into the fall or so on, we may want to use the port party and sort of at the bookends of that, at the start of it, at the end of it, maybe use that as a sort of a mini summit. We can cover some topics, updates, from Tom and Diwaz and various community members, and maybe even do a virtual roundups around that particular party. So maybe we'll give people enough lead time, and folks can sort of plan their schedules accordingly, in the hope, of course, that they can book the time or block the time and participate. And of course, we'll make it time zone friendly for the colleagues across the world. But in terms of a formal SaltConf, I'll come back once I hear back from Alex, who runs our product and marketing team.
I think everybody's starting to really miss conferences, or maybe that's just me. I've done a couple virtual ones, but there's something about having that dedicated set aside time to get together and learn together, but then also those kind of side chit chat conversations that happen.
Yep.
All right, another completely unrelated question. Is there a way to access historical SaltConf archives? That question is from Project DP. There is a way to access the historical SaltConf archives. We have playlists. Ping me after this meetup, and I will send you a link to those. All right, and then another question from Zoom chat. Is there a release date set for SALT 3000.4?
I guess my question is, what is 3000.4?
Yeah, I think the answer, Vishal, to that question is that when you look at the rolling release approach that we've adopted, the only time that a 3000.4 would now occur is essentially if we have a CVE. So the next target would be a 3001.1, and then barring anything that comes up, come October 14th to be precise, we would have 3000 that sort of will essentially have magnesium have released. So it will be 3001, 3002, 3003, and they're on this 16-week cadence. So the answer in short is there is no date for 3000.4. The only thing that would trigger us to make a 3004 is a CVE. There will be a 3001.1, more likely around July 15th. We already have about 18 or so issues that we've been tracking, I think approximately 20 issues. So we'll be working through those to get them into 3001.1. And then everything will roll back into the master and into 3002.
All right. Plinkable has a comment that came up in the midst of that. He said, that's not what we were expecting. The understanding was that fixes would be published for the current and previous version, not only the latest version. People who are unable to upgrade to the bleeding edge version due to other faults still need an option.
Yeah, so anything that is supported for those particular issues that we deem are severity and so on, we will make that available. And the intent, of course, is ultimately to always have what somebody might describe as a bleeding edge or the latest. And then we would always have a dot 1, dot 2, etc., based on the issues that get raised.
Does anybody have anything else to add?
I was just going to quickly comment, just building on Mo's response there. Like our hope going forward with the rolling release and our quicker, more predictable release schedule is that the releases are more stable, so that we can address some of the issues that prevent people from running the latest and greatest versions of Salt. So we can move away from the concept of thinking of them as like bleeding edge, that they are considered the stable release.
Yeah, one of the responses is that upgrading to a new version isn't as easy as we'd like, so being able to get fixes is critical, or is crucial.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. As always, send me topic suggestions. I've been keeping an eye out I know people have just been tagging me in different Slack conversations about things they'd like to discuss in these open hours. Please continue doing that. We also have a request for a snail joke. I do not have any snail jokes, but can somebody
I'm
Does anybody
sure
have one to share?
somebody can. Somebody has a snail joke ready to go. I can't think of who that might be, but I'm sure someone can.
Just regarding that NetTools thing, I've already been looking at where those tools are referenced and writing up a comment on that original issue. So should have that done shortly.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh, somebody had a good question in the Twitch chat as well. They asked what the open hour schedule is. We are every Thursday at 11 a.m. Mountain. But in response, I'm also going to send out a link to the SaltStack community events calendar because that is up to date. And so that's where you can find out where all of our events are. You can add it to your own calendar if you wish. So I will share that link out for everybody as soon as I grab it. And I do believe I have it as a pinned post in Slack, but I know not everybody's in Slack. Community event calendar.
What do you call a snail without a shell? Dead.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow, that got dark.
Dark quickly. I thought it was going to be like homeless or a slug or something, but no, you went there, DWAS.
Yeah, that went all the way.
I guess
But it got the laughs.
I'm glad this is going to be a weekly feature now. So everybody else, please bring good ones. Non-dark ones. Yeah.
Google snail jokes. All right, everybody. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. I will get the this video posted and notes transcribed in the next few days. And as always, reach out if you have anything. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.